That's Stacey Blackwood. I'm Clint Lamb, and this is Strength and Conditioning on the Cover Crimson YouTube channel. Stacey, Alabama just landed a massive commitment in Ivan Taylor, a 4-star prospect out of Florida, son of Ike Taylor, 2-time Super Bowl champion, cornerback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Had a really good career. I think he retired about a decade ago. I want to say it was 2014 or 2015. It was something like that. But a heck of a player in the NFL. Ivan Taylor doesn't play corner. He plays, or at least he's listed as a safety. He plays safety in high school. Kind of give me your initial reaction to the news. You just recently lost a very good Caleb Cunningham, adding a top 100 prospect like Ivan Taylor. Obviously, that's big for the Crimson Tide.
For sure, and it's at a position that Alabama didn't have a commitment from so far in this class. Obviously, they at one point in time had Derek Smith, who flipped to Auburn a couple of months ago, who was probably going to play that safety position for Alabama. So you didn't have anybody. Now you land a top 100 prospect in Ivan Taylor, who obviously has the pedigree. It's in his DNA to be a football player. Like you said, he's listed as a safety, kind of smaller right now at 175 pounds or so, room to grow, but excited about the potential that he has to bring and the playmaking ability he can bring to the secondary for Alabama.
Yeah, he's really fun to watch on tape. I always jot down some notes when I'm watching guys. Played, at least from what I've seen, played in a 2-high system in high school. Typically, we'll see him lining up as the field safety to the wide side of the field, which is more of like a free safety kind of look. But initially he was committed to Notre Dame, and then back in July, I believe, he switched to Michigan, and he's been committed to Michigan ever since. Now he's making the switch to Alabama. That might concern fans. Is he going to stick with Alabama? Alabama was very much in the mix when he committed to Michigan. A lot of people thought he might end up going to Alabama back then. So really likes the school. Ike Taylor obviously really likes the school. He actually, I think he went to Louisiana Lafayette. So he's no ties to Alabama, but I think he respects the program. I think he respects Kalen DeBoer. I think he respects Kane Wommack and what he's building, especially for the safeties. Really, it's the safeties and the Huskies. And I actually think that Ivan Taylor could end up playing either one of those two positions. Like, he's really physical. The speed is certainly there. I want to say he runs in the low 4.5s right now, or at least the last time he was hand timed. But very good player, can play really either safety role, also can play nickel corner. And Notre Dame actually recruited him to play the nickel. Michigan recruited him to play safety. I think with Alabama, based off of what he could end up playing either one, really. I probably think he would end up. I'm not exactly sure. I think Alabama's recruiting him as a safety. Is that right?
That's what I understand. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, just a really good football player. It's super high football IQ.
Yeah, that's the first thing. Yeah, sorry to cut you off. That's the first thing that when you watch him play, he just knows how to play football. I mean, he's a football dude.
He's absolutely. He's the kind of guy that has future captain written all over him. Right. Sound tackler. Really like the physicality they brings to the table. You talked about, the size. I think he's somewhere in that 175, 180 range right now, or at least the last time I think his weight was updated, it was somewhere in that range. I think by the time he gets on campus and stuff, he seems to me like, I don't think he'll be a Red Morgan where he'll show up light. I think he'll show up, if you remember Earl Little Jr., when he committed to Alabama, he was like 170, 175. He gets to Alabama and he's like 180 plus, 185, I think. And I think his last year at Alabama last season, he was like 188, 190. So I more so see Ivan being in that range. And that's really when upon arrival. But I think when you look at Alabama's secondary and stuff, it's really is interesting how things kind of look. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Because, obviously looking ahead to next year when Ivan Taylor would actually be on campus for Alabama and on the roster, you're obviously losing a guy like Malachi Moore, which would be a big hit. But there's a lot of returning players in that back end. So you don't have to expect him to come in and play right away. He can come in, he can learn the system, learn whatever position the coaches decide to put him at. Maybe it's multiple positions. Like you mentioned, he could play some Husky. He could play either safety position. But I just think that when you add this type of player with this type of football IQ, with a bunch of young talent who's going to have a year of experience now. When you talk about Zabian Brown at corner, and you look at what they have with maybe Keon Sabb returning, Bray Hubbard coming back. There's some guys in that room who can kind of put Ivan Taylor under the wing and help him come along. But I think he's a guy who, a lot of people were surprised that Red Morgan come in and was seeing some reps early. It wouldn't surprise me, even with all the talent returning next year, to see a guy like Ivan Taylor, get some early looks because of that football IQ that he has. I mean, when you have football in your DNA like he does, it's just different. And so, and not only does he have the IQ, he has the athleticism, he has the ability to play the position at a high level. So I think when you look ahead to the secondary in Tuscaloosa, you have to be excited about what it looks like. And then adding a guy like Ivan Taylor just, makes that even better.
Well, I think the number one thing that is going to help him, the number one thing is exactly what you said. It's the football IQ. Like, I don't think making the transition, grasping what Kane Wommack's going to do defensively or want to do defensively, I don't think that's going to be too complicated for him to understand. I think that's probably one of the major benefits of going from Nick Saban to Kane Wommack, because I think it gives those young secondary guys a better chance of getting on the field early. Not only that, so I think the transition is going to be I wouldn't say it's easy. It's never easy really for anybody, for almost anybody, but I think it's going to be easier for him than a lot of guys. But secondly, I think it is that versatility. The fact that like we've already mentioned, he can play, in the nickel, slot, husky, whatever, but he can also play both safety positions. And I think that when you have that versatility and you have a high football IQ, it's going to depend on what they put on his plate or are willing to put on his plate. But, if you have a hole, if injuries happen or whatever, and you're a versatile piece that's not limited to playing one type of role, depending on where those injuries happen, you can work your way onto the field, whether it be them moving somebody else around or them moving you around if you're capable of doing that. I think that's, big for him. A guy like, Deshaun Jones right now, he would not be seeing the playing time that he is if he was exclusively a perimeter corner, but he's starting to learn that husky position. They've needed him, with Devontae Smith having kind of the injury issues that he's had all throughout his career. That's continued this season. Red Morgan's dealt with not only some injuries of his own, some kind of nagging things that's forced him to leave games early, but also he kind of is making some freshman mistakes. He's growing, he's learning, he's trying to get bigger and stronger and all those things. So having a guy like Jones who has that versatility has really paid off in Alabama's secondary. And when you look at, like, you are losing Malachi Moore, who has played just a ton of football, but right now I think Keon Sabb, he feels like a day 2 pick to me. He feels like, based off of the fact that he got injured, so the tape, he didn't play he played a lot at Michigan, but he wasn't a full-time starter or anything like that. He, started a couple of games at Alabama. He has been a full-time starter, but just dealing with the injuries that he's dealt with, I don't know that he ends up leaving early for the NFL. Maybe he does, but right now I'd probably view him as like a Jordan Battle type as far as the range, like a 3rd-round pick, maybe a 2nd-round pick, but I think he would have a chance to climb a lot higher than that if he chose to come back. And so I think I wouldn't be shocked if he came back. I wouldn't be shocked. Obviously, Bray Hubbard's going to be back, and with the way he's playing, those are probably your 2 starters next year. But you also got guys like King Mack. You got Cam Howard. You do have, Deshaun Jones could end up being back. He has that versatility. Red Morgan's going to be back. Devontae Smith can still be back. He's a redshirt junior, so he could come back for a 5th season. So you've got some returning players, but like you said, a guy like Ike Taylor, he's good enough to where he can come in and kind of, make some noise, help fill in, some depth. And then also, if he's just that good, I'm sure Alabama will figure out a way to get him on the field. And one thing that we've seen from Kane Wommack that we didn't always see from Nick Saban is a willingness to rotate. And I think that's another big part of this. If Ivan is earning playing time, if he's practicing extremely well, Kane Wommack's not afraid to play a freshman, and he's not afraid to rotate guys. I think that also, when you're a recruit and you're trying to get on the field early, I think that's beneficial and that's appealing.
No doubt. And that's the point I was going to make next. We saw like you said, Wommack and this coaching staff are willing to play some of these younger players if they think they're good enough to play. I mean, especially, and we're seeing that pay off now with Bray Hubbard. He was able to gain some experience in the early season games this year because of the staff's willingness to rotate players on defense, especially in the back end. And now he's a starter with Keon Sabb out, and he's playing really, really well. So I think, with Ivan Taylor's football IQ, with his athleticism, with how gifted of a player he is, and the coaching staff's willingness to rotate some guys in that back end of that defense, it would not shock me to see him get some early playing time as a freshman next season. And then you don't even mention what could happen on special teams, but he's a really good player. And this is a big flip. I mean, anytime you're battling schools like Michigan and Notre Dame, you're getting a dang good football player. So even to forget what Michigan's doing this year, they recruit at a high level every single season. So does Notre Dame. And this is a big time get for Kane Wommack and this defensive staff.
I'm sure Sherrone Moore is not a fan of Alabama right now.
Probably not.
You take Keon Sabb,
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, you take him, and he's supposed to be kind of your next up superstar at safety, and then you turn around and the guy that you're trying to recruit and get that you see as the future at that position, Alabama's like, no, we're not done with you guys yet. We're gonna take him too. And, that's just it is a huge get for Alabama. And when you look at like Dijon Lee, you look at Chuck McDonald, both really highly regarded corners. You talk about the issues at corner as far as experience. The good part about it next year is that you should have a really good combination. Whether Damani Jackson, he could end up leaving early, he could choose to return. I have no idea what he's going to do. But either way, the fact that Xavier Brown's gotten the playing time that he has, the fact that Jalen Mbakwe has seen some action, he's got some experience, he'll continue to get tested for the rest of this season. A game like this, really just anything left on the schedule in the regular season certainly positions him to get more playing time and more experience. That will help him. And then, of course, if something does happen with Damani Jackson, I think, keeping Deshaun Jones, if you needed him to play out on the perimeter, he's certainly capable. He's done some good things out there as well. And so, I really like the combination of both returning guys next year based off of what we think is going to be back, on top of the fact that you're bringing in two very highly regarded, highly respected recruits to the cornerback position. And now at safety, you've kind of done the same thing where you're going to have a very good blend of experience. You've gotten a lot of guys playing time this year. King Mack has played some. He's gotten some valuable experience after getting a little bit as a freshman at Penn State last year. And so I think from a depth standpoint and a frontline starter standpoint, the secondary could end up being one of the strengths of this Alabama team next year.
No question about it. And I think fans have to be excited. You think about what Xavier Brown, obviously he's had his struggles, but I mean, for a true freshman in the SEC, I'm not sure you could ask for much better than what he's provided for Alabama this year at corner. And then you mentioned Damani Jackson, whether he decides to come back or not, he's been really good for Alabama too. But the fact that, once again, this coaching staff was willing to rotate guys in. So Mbakwe's had a ton of experience. King Max had a ton of experience. We're seeing that pay off with Ray Hubbard, like we just mentioned. So it's just nice to see a coaching staff be willing to let players play in the actual game that earned that time in the practice week. So I love to see it. I think that the defensive back room is getting better each and every week. I think you see it improving. You can watch it each and every week as they improve, and they're just going to be even better next year when all those guys have more experience and they're playing together. They build some camaraderie and understand the system they're running there with Kane Wommack. So excited about what that group can look like, and like you said, could be a strength, especially of the defense next season.
Yeah, and a guy that we haven't even mentioned, Zay Mincy. He's gotten some first year playing time at corner. He's recently, been playing some safety. He brings that versatility. I said all along since the day, really before he committed to Alabama, but I really liked what his size and length could do for you out on the perimeter. I think in zone coverage and stuff, trying to get things over the top of him, when you've got that kind of rare length, that can be really beneficial. The prototypical guy that you refer to when you talk about that length out on the perimeter is Richard Sherman, during that Legion of Boom days, which, Kane Wommack and the way he kind of does things, he's gotten a lot from the Legion of Boom with the Seattle Seahawks, like how that he operates and stuff. He's gotten a lot. So I mean, Zay Mincy could go back to corner, and he might be playing both right now. I know he's seeing some time at safety. I don't know how much. We haven't really seen it in the game or anything like that, but we'll see how it continues to progress. But that's another guy that we need to be talking about, because I think whether you talk about safety, whether you talk about corner, he can factor in as well. And then you start talking about these freshmen, next year's freshmen, who are just ultra talented as well. You talk about that length at the position. Dijon Lee is a guy who brings elite length. I mean, that's one of his biggest strong suits, and he's so much more than that. But it's just a really good combination, as I said, of different skill sets, different body types, versatility kind of all over the place. And when you talk about Xavier Brown, I think fans are fine with where he's at. I haven't seen too much criticism, but for anybody who has criticized him, because I've seen a little bit of it, I do want you to understand. Remember, you made the same criticisms of Kool-Aid McKinstry, and you made the same criticisms of Tyrion Arnold the next year. And, 2 consecutive years in a row, Kool-Aid McKinstry became a day 1, day 2 talent after some first year struggles as a starter, as at least a part-time starter. Tyrion Arnold did it the next year, and he ended up in his his first full season as a starter. He turns into a superstar, even better than Kool-Aid, and he goes in the first round. And so a guy like Xavier Brown, just because you see him struggle a little bit, there's some cover bust, some of those things. Understand, he's doing exactly what he needs to do right now to set himself up for long-term success in Kane Wommack's system.
Yeah, the best is yet to come for Xavier Brown. That he's going to be an NFL player. I mean, he's got tremendous size. I mean, prototypical size, probably 6'1", probably 190, 195, just great size, good speed. He's really, to be such a young player, he's technically sound for to be such a young player. So his upside is tremendous. Zay Mincy's upside may be better than anybody else's in that secondary when you talk about the position versatility because of his size and his length and his athleticism. So I don't know how you can't be excited about what that defensive back room is going to look like moving forward. And I love how you mentioned how the coaching staff is kind of blending, the kind of players they recruit in that position, because you kind of see that across the entire roster. And I think that's what's going to make this team so much fun to watch, is as we learn to live in this Kalen DeBoer era of Alabama football, because it is completely different. And I think fans often lose that thought a little bit when you're throughout the season and you see some of the growing pains. But this is a completely new system on both sides of the football, a new voice. Things are totally different, and the best is yet to come under this coaching staff. And you see him pull in flips from Michigan, and a guy like Ivan Taylor, who's a tremendous football player. It just gets you even more excited about what this coaching staff can do in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of what I love about it is it's beneficial. Like if you're trying to pitch a recruit, typically if you under Nick Saban, for example, if you've got Kool-Aid McKinstry and Tyrion Arnold, and you're trying to pitch a corner, it's like, where's the playing time coming? It's not happening because he really doesn't. Now, granted, every year you've got guys go down in the secondary, so you need to have depth. Like everybody understands how valuable Trey Amos was to last year's team when you started seeing some of those perimeter cornerbacks go down. But as far as getting guys on campus, you can make that pitch and say, hey, we've always got guys going down. So you're going to get some opportunities at some point if you're ready. It's easier to do when there's already kind of a rotation built in on that. And they know no matter what happens, everybody can stay perfectly healthy all year at your position. And if you're still performing well and practicing, you're earning what you feel like should be playing time, and the coaching staff feels that way, you're going to get on the field. And so, I really like that aspect of it. I will say, out of everybody in that cornerback room, really everybody at safety too, no player has more upside than Jalen Mbakwe. I think he's an absolute freak athletically. I think that, he's showing the tendencies to be willing to mix things up in the run game or, the quick passing game on screens and stuff. He'll come up and he'll get off of blocks and he'll lay some big hits. But when you see that as a true freshman, that willingness, on top of the fact that you know that he's got rare athletic skills. I see a guy who's going to only, as he gets more and more comfortable playing exclusively corner after kind of doing everything for his high school team. I mean, the ceiling is certainly up there. He's already way further along than I originally thought that he would be. So, you've got him involved in that conversation as well. Very exciting secondary. Ivan Taylor has a chance to be a big part of it. And it's not just, year 2, year 3. He's got a chance, despite the fact that I think Alabama could end up, if they get Sabb and Hubbard back, I think this is going to be one of the best safety tandems in college football in 2025. But that doesn't mean that Ivan Taylor is going to be forgotten. If he's ready to contribute, which I think he will be based off of, of his understanding of the game and all that stuff, I certainly think he can get involved in that conversation too.
No doubt about it. And this coaching staff will certainly play the guys that they feel like can contribute to the team, whether you're a freshman or whatever class you're in. They're going to play the dudes that can help them win football games. And you mentioned Jalen Mbakwe. I would have lost money in the preseason, really before the preseason, over the summer, thinking that I'm not sure he'll see any real significant playing time as a corner, as a true freshman, when he's never really played the position at a consistently, doesn't really know much about that position. But man, was I wrong. Obviously, that dude gets in the playbook. He obviously practices super hard, takes it serious, because the fact that he is already taking significant reps at corner, that blows my mind, because you mentioned it. There's probably, we talk about how athletic Jalen Milroe is and Ryan Williams. Pure athlete, Jalen Mbakwe is up there with anybody. I mean, he's unbelievably athletic, and he's a future star at corner. And I'm surprised he is as far along as he is right now.
Yeah, and I mean, Kane Wommack's defense, it's appealing for corners for sure, but I mean, for a guy like Ivan Taylor, it's very appealing for safeties. Like, yes. I mean, I'll never understand Caleb Downs. I really won't, because I just feel like with his skill set and what he brings to the table and this Kane Wommack defense, I think it would have been the perfect system for him. I think he would have shined. But what I will say is it doesn't really matter, because Alabama's got guys who, don't, truth be told, they don't have what Caleb Downs has, both physically and the football IQ and all that stuff. Just his combination of skill set is so rare. There's a reason that he was so coveted coming out of high school. There's a reason that Nick Saban continues to talk him up as being one of the most intelligent freshmen and most mature freshmen he's ever been around. And just, he would have, but at the same time, you don't have to have all that stuff to thrive in this defense. We're seeing it. It's right. Not that Bray Hubbard's a much better player than, his high school ranking coming out, being a low 4-star. I think some places even had him as a 3-star. Great job on 3 with the projecting, understand what he brings to the table as far as being a potential safety, because as we've seen him grow into or get more comfortable doing that on the college level, he's turned into a heck of a player. Keon Sabb has been a heck of a player in this defensive system. And, Malachi Moore, he's done some really good things. I think he's been fantastic in coverage. I had some questions about his limitations, doing some of this stuff as far as the range and all that, but he's been very effective. And of course the run stopping and stuff, we knew he was going to be able to do all that stuff. So just very impressed with what the safeties are doing. And Ivan Taylor has a skill set that can absolutely thrive in this vision oriented defense where he's going to be making plays. He's a willing tackler. Like I said, he'll come up, he'll hit you. He's very physical, but just the football IQ of understanding the game of football and, being able to pick up on things. I think this vision oriented defense, I think he'll be able to bait quarterbacks. He'll be able to make a lot of plays on the back end. They'll be able to do different things with him. Obviously, sometimes the safety's got to roll up when offenses use motion. So, you'll see him playing in the box some, and I think he can do it all. I think he's a very balanced option at the position. And I think Alabama got an absolute steal in this kid out of Florida. Stacey, do you have anything else before we get out of here?
No, but just want to add that I do think Ivan Taylor can thrive in this system because of what you were just talking about and the vision, the way you have to play with vision as a safety in this system. Ivan Taylor is built for this type of defense as a safety. And you're talking about a guy that could have multiple interceptions in a single season once he's a full-time starter, because he's that type of playmaker. I mean, we saw what Keon Sabb has done. We saw what Bray Hopert's done in his absence. So excited about what Ivan Taylor's going to bring to the Alabama secondary.
Right there with you, buddy. We appreciate everybody who's listened in. If you haven't already, liked this video, subscribe to the Cover Crimson YouTube channel. We're growing every single day, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate that. The support means the world to us. And also, if you haven't already, go sign up at covercrimson.com. We're going to be talking about Ivan Taylor. We're going to be talking about the secondary. We're going to be talking about kind of what it means. Anytime we have a conversation here, we expand on that conversation over on the message boards. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing with this, and really what it means for the roster in general. So definitely go over to covercrimson.com, sign up, join the community. We appreciate all you guys. We will talk to you guys soon.